Welcome to Grounded Guidance, a casual space for conversation with curiously intuitive minds as we explore fascinating topics that stretch our edges to think differently, live aligned with the pathway we are choosing each day, and propel us to move through life with a new lens on the world. Each week we will explore in this space ideas that may challenge conventional thinking, encourage us to be intentional with our thoughts and actions, and grow through conversation with each other and with you. Join us.
I got a little and she's crying.
Change the screen.
It would not be a live stream.
It would not be a live stream without a little interruption. Sorry, y'all.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Grounded Guidance. We're so glad that you're here. We are your hosts for the podcast, Kayla, Kim, and Karen. We are excited to be discussing a very spooky paranormal place today, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. Drop in the chat if you've ever been there or you know somebody that's been there. We'd love to hear from you about what your experience was. We will get to what I'm sure some of you are excited to talk about, which is Stephen King's experience at the Stanley Hotel. But let's talk a little bit about the history of the hotel and kind of lay the groundwork for why we're even talking about this today. And this, what many coined to be the most famous North American haunted hotspot. So a little bit about the Estes Valley, which is in Colorado. It's right on the outside of the Rocky Mountain National Park. And this area was home to the Ute and Arapaho tribes for nearly 10,000 years. So they roamed this area, which is like a very wild area, lots of elk, lots of bison, the free flowing rivers for many years before anybody even moved to the area. The Earl of Dunraven first visited the area in 1872, and he kind of stole the land. He stole the land, about 6,000 acres of it, for his own private hunting reserve, which I think is really interesting. And he was a sportsman. He loved the streams, the meadows, the fish, all of it, but he didn't make any friends with the local ranchers because he came in, and that was during the time when the U.S. was deeding land, and he had people help purchase the land for him because he was from, I believe, Ireland. Anyways.
So like a bunch of people just started buying land on his behalf?
On his behalf, yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. Yeah, he was an Irish baronet. So he didn't make any friends because he felt, a lot of people felt like he was really, stealing the land from them. Which I think lends itself to an interesting part of this whole story when we get to the Stanley Hotel, because he wasn't making any friends. Mm-hmm. He was kind of like a big business magnate. So he brought in a lot of money. He brought in a lot of old money, and it brought in a lot of people to the area. What's interesting about it is he built the Estes Park Hotel in 1878. What's interesting is in 1911, a fire destroyed this hotel, leaving nothing but just the rubble behind.
Yeah, here's your sign, right?
Yeah. Do you know how it was started?
Say it again.
Do you know how the fire was started?
I do not know how the fire was started, but it's interesting because the fire, Estes Park and the Stanley Hotel has seen a lot of different natural disasters, one of which being the fire has come or has ripped through the Stanley Hotel as well, which is interesting given kind of what's happened here on the land. So if we keep going, in 1903, Freeland Oscar Stanley, also known as F.O. Stanley, is a very famous inventor. You guys might know the Stanley steamer. So the Stanley
The
steamer,
car, not the cleaning company, right? Yeah.
well, what's interesting about that is Stanley steamer, the car, is what he invented. And him and his brother were well known for the Stanley steamer. The cleaning company, Stanley Steamer, actually got their name from the Stanley steamer car, but they're not affiliated. I think that was so yeah. So he had a life-threatening case of tuberculosis, and his doctor recommended the best treatment for tuberculosis back in the day was fresh mountain air, high altitude, and lots of sunshine.
Oh, wow.
He came west. He was from the East Coast, and he came west. And his doctor really gave him no more than 6 months to live. And he ended up thriving in Colorado, especially the Estes Valley. And this was a place he only frequented in the summertime. And what was interesting about it is he decided he wanted to kind of make a stay there in the Estes Valley. So he decided to build a hotel. And it was really his vision to build a hotel that would serve kind of the upper class, the upper echelon of people. And he did that. And he moved there and built a home for him and his wife, Flora, and they lived there for about 8 years. And then he decided to build the Stanley Hotel. What's interesting about the Stanley Hotel is he wanted to name it, I think,
the Dunraven.
Yes, the Dunraven.
Yeah.
And then they had a petition of people that said, absolutely not. You cannot name it the Dunraven, because Earl of Dunraven made such a name for himself. And they said no.
He was like a big butthead, and everyone's
Like a bad name.
do not name your hotel after him.
No. So he named it the Stanley Hotel. And what was interesting about this resort kind of at the turn of the century was it had imagine this. It had electricity, it had running water. It didn't have heat because it was only open in the summertime.
Because it's on the side of a mountain, right? Like it's dug into the side of the mountain.
He was responsible for bringing water to the Estes Valley. He was responsible for helping set up the Fall River hydro plant, which I think is really fascinating. So the hotel,
he did that for the hotel though, right? Like he
For
set
the
up a
hotel.
hydro plant in order
Yes.
to power the hotel, and it was
Yes.
beneficial because it also powered the town.
yeah,
But
which was
very interesting.
huge, right? Which is huge in this time. We're talking on the cusp of electricity here.
Mhm.
So these hotel rooms had the fully electric hotel, which was big, a hydraulic elevator, which is kind of unheard of, telephones in every room. And then there were 48 rooms initially in the hotel, and each pair sharing a bathroom. He also helped build, or the Stanley Hotel included a concert hall, which was really a gift to his wife, Flora, who he also included a piano in the concert hall, and she loved to play the piano. This is an important part of what we'll be discussing tonight. So guests early on enjoyed playing golf, bowling, horseback riding, motor excursions, formal dinners, concerts, and then billiards. So it was really like a really fun place to get away.
It sort of feels like it might have been like the Colorado Catskills, right? Like a Catskillsy version, but Colorado style.
You know, what's interesting, when I was doing some research on this, I thought it was interesting to learn that he really kind of had a say in who would stay at the hotel.
Oh.
He was kind of he only wanted the upper echelon people, and he
elitist.
would often,
Nice.
a little bit of an elitist. He would sit in the lobby sometimes and nod to the reception staff about whether they could stay or not, and that often meant turning people away, so then nobody could stay. So there was a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe I don't know.
Seems like it would draw a little bit of animosity, right? Like, I feel like that would just piss people off to no end. Like, okay, I'm not good enough to stay at your hotel. Yeah,
this was the Stanley guy?
Yeah, this was F.O. Stanley, yes.
See, what I saw was that he was a nice guy, so he was actually not, like, in my research.
Well, I think he
nicer than Dunraven.
I think he was. I just think that I don't know, maybe he was trying to uphold a certain standard in the hotel, and keep it a certain way. So it opened July 4th, 1909, and it became like the premier destination west of the Mississippi. Like, it was the place to stay. So Eric, if you could put the slide deck up, let's show some pictures of the Stanley Hotel. Okay, so you'll notice here it is a colonial revival hotel, built really with the architecture from that East Coast feel, because F.O. Stanley was from the East Coast. And it is now the oldest hotel in Estes Park, which I think is fascinating.
It kind of looks like that hotel that that the president has, like, a secret lair underneath. So, like, if there's a natural disaster or a major national emergency, they go and hide in this special hotel underground. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Where is that? Yeah,
something like Virginia or.
Oh.
Anyways, that was a digression, but it has a similar
Did
look
you see
to that
in a movie. Was that in a movie somewhere?
No, that's a real thing.
That's
It's a real thing. Yeah, I think so.
Like a fortress underground?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Like a whole fortress underground that has, like, a bunch of them from my preparedness days. I just remembered this.
All right. Okay,
Greenbrier. Thank you, Jason. Yes.
Greenbrier. Oh, why have I not ever heard of this? I need to research this.
It looks very similar. So a very, like, upper
stately
echelon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, stately. Stately is a perfect word for it.
Yeah, it's it's very regal, and it's beautiful. It's quite beautiful. Let's go to the next slide. We have a couple. So this was probably at the turn of the century. You see the women in their dresses, and this might have been shortly after it was built.
1910 in the bottom right corner.
Thank you.
What?
1910. It was built in 1910, a year old. Okay, so let's keep going. Next slide.
Keep it on.
Yeah, just some further pictures here. The cool thing about the hotel is it's literally 5 miles outside of Rocky Mountain National Park. Now, at the time that it was built, Rocky Mountain National Park was not a national park in our park system. So it was just kind of like free for all. The land was kind of this, whoever the land was deeded to, or whoever had bought land. And he had bought land at this time. So what's interesting is the hotel has kind of this long history, unusual history of activity, strange paranormal activity that's happened here in the hotel over these 110 years that it's been standing. So we're going to kind of go through the different places within the hotel. I don't know if anybody's been there. I wasn't kind of looking at the chat at the same time, but we're going to kind of go through the main places in the hotel that are kind of interesting and lead maybe one to think that there could be some paranormal things happening. So the first place that is kind of the big portal. Stanley Isn't Spooky. Been there a million times and I love it there. Cool. I love to hear that.
Maybe we should go visit.
Well, I would really love to visit, but I just don't think I would want to stay there.
Yeah, I think I'd go for a tour, like a tour during the day, but maybe not like a nighttime excursion. No thanks.
They do night tours, I've read, which I think is
I'm
really
sure. I bet that's a pretty big moneymaker for them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So the first place is the hotel's main staircase. So let's look at that in the slide deck. Keep going. Some other great pictures of the hotel.
You can imagine with the blowing up of a mountainside that they would have probably pissed off a bunch of ancient Indian burial grounds and stuff like that, right? Like, so of course
Yeah.
it's got to be a little haunted.
Dumb and Dumber was filmed here. That I didn't know that.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber was filmed there.
Is that the ending of it?
The hotel
The-
in Aspen that
The whole
Lloyd and Harry
Aspen
stay at.
Hotel.
Oh, that's it. Wow. Hedge maze.
Yeah, Kayla, you bring up a good point. One of the things that F.O. Stanley did here was build on top of the bedrock, which I thought was really fascinating. He didn't want to clear some of the bedrock, so he just built the hotel over the bedrock.
That's
And we'll
right.
look-
So the building moves with the natural changes in the rock itself. I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, so let's talk about that first. So one of the things they have in this hotel is these tunnels, which I think are fascinating. So here is a look at this. You can actually go take a peek at this when you go on one of their tours, but you'll notice that the bedrock here, this is the basement of the hotel. Now they created these tunnels because the people that work there, that F.O. Stanley really believed that he wanted his workers to not be seen when they were working. So the people that worked there moved underground as to not be seen when they were working there, which I thought was really interesting. But you'll notice here that that's a lot of rock not to move.
Mm-hmm.
And it was made of limestone and quartz. Is that right?
Well, that
that-
has been some claims. And then they did a big geological survey of the land and determined that it is not limestone and quartz as one had believed. It's actually called, it's a generic.
Just regular old rock.
Rock.
Just your run of the mill
Gravel.
rock.
I think it made a really good story when they said granite and quartz, because quartz amplifies things.
Right.
And I
it
think that was
drawing
what
it in.
was really exciting for people that were, really into the paranormal piece of things. But unfortunately, it's a wah-wah. But I still think it's really interesting.
But if
Yeah.
it's built on the bedrock and the building shifts with the rocks themselves, then that could explain some of the like doors closing or opening on their own.
That's a really good point. You know what? I didn't even think about that. But look at the door here. Look at the big gap between.
Yeah.
I mean, the
frame
foundation?
and the foundation. Yeah. It's not even a frame. It's just a door hanging on next to a rock.
It really is. And I'm not sure what these black things are. I don't know if that's the safe or.
It
No, it
looks like
there's
a
piping.
furnace.
Oh, maybe. Well, I don't know.
Like
That
a
would have been added
furnace or
after. Isn't that interesting, though?
Yeah, that is interesting. It reminds me like of our old house, right? Like nothing was level, so as you walked wrong and the door slams shut on you because it just follows you.
That's a good point.
So I imagine that happens a lot there.
Yeah, on the different floors.
Yeah.
Kayla, I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about the bedrock moving, and that could be what's creating some of these open and door, the door shutting situations that we read about in the Stanley Hotel. Very interesting. So let's go back to the main staircase in the hotel. So right here, let's look at this here. So this is really interesting. I think we have another picture of it.
Yeah, there's another one within.
There we go.
There you go.
So the main staircase in the hotel connects the main lobby to the second floor. And some believe that it's kind of a portal for all of what they believe to be the spiritual energy that exists here in the hotel. Now, one of the reasons, or some people have speculated that they have mirrors on either side of the stairway that reflect each other or that reflect what's happening on either side. So it creates kind of this vortex or portal. And they reflect perfectly 3 to 4 times, and then everything gets distorted really quickly. Some believe that that's why. The really interesting thing, this was on a tour. This was a guest tour in 2016. And the girl on the stairs was not, you'll notice that the people in, kind of sitting around waiting aren't even, glancing in her direction. At least I think it's a girl. That's what it appears to be to me.
It almost looks like she's coming through the reflection of the light, or like the reflection of the light through the lens is like casting her almost like a, what's it called when?
Hologram.
Thank you, hologram. See, I need to know.
Yeah.
Almost like a hologram, right?
Yeah. You look, and then
Is that a special ghost cam?
no,
It's just a regular camera.
Yeah, it was just somebody on the tour that took a picture.
It's probably like their family down there. They're like, "Oh, I want to get a picture of my family on this tour," and then they caught a ghost.
Wow.
You know what's so interesting about this though? That as blurry as it is, I can still make out that it's something. It looks like she's
definitely
wearing a white dress.
Yeah, it looks like a little girl wearing a white dress or a nightgown or something. Like her feet look like they're wearing slippers or little ballet slippers or something. It's creepy.
Yeah.
She's got blonde hair.
Yeah, well, it looks like she maybe has dark hair, but it looks longer. And it looks like she's coming up the stairs, right? Doesn't it look like she's coming up to join the group?
Yeah, walking up the stairs, and that her left shoulder, you can see the carpet through it almost.
Yeah.
And we're sure this isn't Photoshop.
We
are we sure about anything? We're not sure about anything.
Yeah. I'm curious what the people are watching. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Tony thinks we're tripping, but
we're tripping. It's weird.
Okay,
I mean, it's like the light beams from the light, like they go right through her head.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah. And you notice nobody else is actually looking that way. Everybody's just kind of like.
It's because she's not actually there. She only showed up in the camera, right? Yeah, that's what I think anyways. This is definitely a ghost, in my opinion.
So? Yeah, I think it's a ghost.
Well, an apparition of something.
100%.
But I'm a believer in ghosts, and our viewers should know that by all of the crap that they've made me watch. 100% believer in ghosts.
I'm just looking in the comments here. Are there records of the little girl passing away? There are a couple of records, or a couple of, I don't know, when ghost teams have been there. But I don't think there's any little girl that I read about.
No, I feel like I read a lot about the like housekeeper or the maid or that died there.
Yeah.
She's
a
pretty
homeless
prevalent.
woman. Yeah.
A homeless woman. Okay.
But this might be a woman. It just might be
a short woman.
Right.
Just a very short woman.
Short.
She forgot to tuck in her t-shirt and it has got a little long.
Because like is she in her nightgown? That's what I want to know. Is it a nightgown? Is it of that time period? Is she wearing a ball gown? Like what is it?
So like contrary to like The Shining though, there wasn't any like murders or anything that happened actually at the hotel.
No.
There was that explosion that killed that housekeeper.
Wait, no, she didn't die. She just broke her feet or something like that.
That is correct.
Oh, she didn't die?
No, she did not die. We'll talk about that.
How do you get blown through the floor of a building and not die?
So let's hold that for a second. We'll talk about that. That leads into our Stephen King conversation. Yeah, no, I know. She was lucky to have survived. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the concert hall. So, do we have another picture of this? Or is this it? Oh, well, let's go back one. Okay, so here's the concert hall. I can't really see it real well here, but this was built for Stanley's wife, F.O. Stanley's wife, Flora. She loved to play the piano. And this is where she spent a lot of her time in the hotel. So they still use this to this day, the concert at the Stanley Hotel. The interesting thing about this is the one area in the hotel that has the most paranormal activity. It's where people can hear people still playing the piano, lots of voices, lots of like people together having a good time that aren't there. Which I think is really interesting. She seems to frequent this place often, Flora.
Yeah, and they hear her playing the piano, yeah.
They hear her playing the piano, yeah. And they hear her playing after hours, playing the piano, which is...
And she's a friendly ghost.
I believe she's friendly, yeah. I believe she is... Yeah.
She just likes to play piano for people, you know? She just loves to play a little ditty.
That would be interesting for sure. Okay, let's talk about the 4th floor. But before we do that, let's go to the next slide. There is another disincarnate picture, another ghost picture.
Yeah,
so here we are at the top of the staircase. Okay, the main staircase. You can't really see the mirrors real well. But
no,
this
the mirror thing.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I interject here? So, sure. Do you think that they think that the mirrors are creating the portal, or how is? Because now I'm questioning whether or not I should hang mirrors in my house. Like
the people the accounts that I've read say that it helps amplify the energy. The mirrors on either side. And then it creates 3 distinct reflections, and then the reflections get distorted. So they believe that it helps amplify what's happening there. They have called it a portal space. Now, this picture is really interesting because this woman that I believe is a woman, she looks like she's from maybe the turn of the century. She looks like she has maybe a long dress on with a white bib.
Yeah, sort of maybe like a little doily or something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really distinct.
It's creepy as shit.
Tony thinks it's Photoshop.
Tony thinks everything's Photoshop. But you know what, Tony? It might be.
It might be. Yeah, it might be, Tony. You might be right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm just curious, what is she doing? She's just standing there,
She looks like she's just headed down the stairs. I'm just headed to the ballroom for a little dance.
So Jason says, of course, we know nothing of the workers who may have passed away during the hotel's construction. Yes, very good point. We don't know. We don't have. Yeah. I did a lot of digging, and I did not find those details. Yes.
Thomas just made mention that he thinks the black dress, it looks a bit like Stanley's wife. I wonder if we go back to that picture of Stanley's wife that was hanging on the wall.
Oh, good job, Thomas.
If there's similarities there. Oh, it's very high collar.
It is.
But, us ladies, we love a black dress. So
those little black dresses. You weren't real little back then, though. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, it could have been the ghost in her nightgown.
Okay, so Aaron Two Spirit said, I thought ghosts only haunted places they died in.
Oh, great point. Yes.
What do you have to think about that, Karen?
Not always. They can be residual energy that's there. Maybe they visited there. It's not necessarily where they've died.
Yeah, especially since that maid that didn't die just broke her feet. But they claim that she's the one that does most of the hauntings in some of those rooms.
She did not.
Right?
Yeah, and she did not die there. She lived close there. She lived in Estes Park, and she died in Estes Park. But she did not die at the Stanley Hotel. But they do believe she haunts the Stanley Hotel. We'll get to her in a second.
Sorry, I keep bringing her up. I really got to stop.
We got to talk about the chambermaid. I think because she is kind of a thorn in our side. Let's talk about the 4th floor of the Stanley Hotel. So the 4th floor is more than anywhere else where they capture and hear the most unusual sightings, sounds, ghost sightings are really common on the 4th floor. Now, the 4th floor didn't exist when it first opened, when the Stanley Hotel first opened. It was only used as an attic for storage during the winter, because remember, the Stanley Hotel closed during the winter.
So it was only 3 stories?
It was only working 3 stories.
Okay.
Yeah, it was still it was always 4 stories, but they didn't use the 4th story. Yeah. So during the early days when the workers would stay on site, they used the 4th floor for the women and children and nannies, and all the female employees and their children would stay on the 4th floor. So one of the most common experiences that I've read about is hearing children run through the halls in the Stanley Hotel, laughing, playing into the wee hours of the night. People will complain. If you pull up TripAdvisor or Yelp or anything about the Stanley Hotel, people will say that, I was awoken in the middle of the night hearing kids running through the hall. Then we tell the front desk, and there was no kids running, and there was no kids that stayed at the hotel at that time. So it must have been a really fun place for kids back at the turn of the century. Just had a run of the house, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Well, they would play indoors when the weather was poor, right?
They would, yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting is now people have reported things like closet doors opening and closing. But again, like with what you said, could that be because of the bedrock shifting? Guest items, and especially clothing, going missing, but then appearing neatly to be folded in the drawers. So room 428 seems to be the most active, with reports of heavy footsteps, furniture being moved. But the real haunt is the friendly cowboy who is said to appear at the corner of the bed. I mean, let's just think about this. You're staying in room 428. You've gone to sleep for the night. And then all of a sudden, there's a friendly cowboy at the
I think I know who he is.
What in the heck is that?
There's your run-of-the-mill friendly cowboy.
What in the world?
Oh, wait, where'd he go?
I am not thinking that I would think that was funny or friendly. I mean, let's be real. Yeah, so lots of activity on the 4th floor. Okay, so let's talk about the chambermaid. Kayla loves the chambermaid. We're really excited.
Apparently,
to talk
I'm
about
obsessed.
All right, why don't you start? Let's start with the 2nd floor, room 217, because that's where this whole thing happened.
Yeah, 217. That's where the giant explosion was, right? So there was a gas leak specifically in that room.
Correct.
And she went in to light the candles because there was a power outage, I believe.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And when she went to light the candles, she just blew herself up. It didn't kill her, though, which is great. I just found that out. But it shot her through the floor. Yes. Yeah.
Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. Yeah, it literally destroyed the entire second.
That entire wing, floor. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they have to shut down for a while?
I would imagine that they did. Yes.
That wing of the building, at least.
Yeah. She did have 2 broken ankles. No one was killed.
That's just bonkers to me. I can't believe it.
They do believe, though, that she haunts room 217. What's interesting is she seems kind of like a prickly old woman.
Yeah, like my grandma, like my gran.
Yes.
I just for some reason
Yes.
sense my gran in that crazy old lady. Mm-hmm.
She lots of lights being turned on and off, and several people, like married couples that have stayed in this room, have felt like a cold force between them.
I read that it was non-married couples.
Oh, non-married couples. Oh, like you shouldn't be in bed together.
Out of wedlock, you should not be sleeping in the same bed.
That makes more sense.
That is hilarious when you think about it, right? She's like, how dare you? Yeah.
No. Oh my
So
gosh,
great.
that's funny. Okay, let's look at that. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, I think we should. The little boy. Or
Yeah.
Kayla said this would look like a teddy bear.
For some reason, I see like a little teddy bear nose and one eye and like an ear, a teddy bear ear.
Kind of looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Kind of, yeah.
Jeez.
Like the nose looks a little bit weird.
You know, I saw a little boy until you said teddy bear, and now I can't unsee the teddy bear.
Sorry. I literally cannot see a little boy because all I can see is a teddy bear. So not sure what to do about that. The world's first ghostly prude. Yeah. Chambermaid.
Well, yeah, I think that's oh my gosh, that's too funny.
Yeah, not a cock block, but a ghost block.
Oh, Teddy Ruxpin. Yes, that's exactly
that's exactly what it looks like. Thank you, Rockstar. And Tony. Yes, that is exactly what it looks like. Teddy Ruxpin.
Oh my gosh, you guys are funny.
That's great. So I maybe a kid just left his Teddy Ruxpin in his room.
Okay, so 217 has lots of history and lots of secrets. So this is room 217 in the Stanley Hotel. So in 1974, the hotel was really on the decline. It had suffered a lot of. It had changed owners, and it was really I mean, it's a big hotel, probably hard to maintain if you don't have the right owners or the right vision behind it. And it was really kind of heading down kind of the path of, maybe closing in the near future. It was still only open in the summers. It had not, and stayed only open in the summers through 1983. But in 1974, right before they closed for the summer,
the winter.
Sorry, the winter. Closed for the summer. Okay. Anyways, yes. A young Stephen King and his wife took a trip from their home. I don't know what they were doing. I think he was hoping to drive through the Rocky Mountain National Park, is what I read.
So was that just a coincidence that it was declining and then he happened to?
That's a really good point. I think it's all kind of serendipitous because
he was just trying to get a break from the East Coast. He and his wife actually moved out to Colorado for a few years to kind of give him a new flavor, like to get inspiration. He was looking for
that's what I got from him. I felt like he was maybe lacking some inspiration. And I may be inferring that based on kind of what happened after his stay here.
I think that was the serendipity part. Like, I think he was out in Colorado looking for some inspiration, a change in scenery, and then all of a sudden fell right into this creepy ass hotel that gave him all the inspiration he needed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, could the whole script have been written, I mean, more appropriately for somebody like Stephen King, right? So they checked into this hotel. They couldn't drive this certain road in Rocky Mountain National Park. So they checked into this Stanley Hotel. They thought, oh, this looks interesting. Let's go. So they checked in, and what do you know? They put him in room 217. Now remember, 217 is where the chambermaid, everything blew up for her, but she didn't die. So what's interesting about this is they only stayed one night. They were the only guests in the hotel for that one night. He made his way down to the bar, was the only one in the bar, kind of walked the hallways, which I thought was really interesting. Like, why are we walking the hallways? But as he drifted off to sleep that night, woke up in a pool of sweat, having numerous nightmares, which I thought was kind of interesting. He never claimed that there was anything paranormal going on in the hotel, but had these really crazy visions after sleeping for a few hours. walked into the bathroom, pulled the curtain back in the bathtub, and said, "I think somebody died here."
Where did you hear that part from?
I read that.
Do you know like
The source?
more the back story of that? Because I just kept hearing about a cigarette that he lit, and then he had the whole story for The Shining.
Oh,
I
interesting.
didn't hear about the bathtub or the shower curtain.
Yeah, I definitely read about
And I
this.
like that story better, I think.
Yeah, the bathtub part is so weird. I mean, it's so strange. Let's talk about the nightmare for a second. So the nightmare that he had was, which I think plays a huge part in the movie, right? Is that his young son, he had a young son at the time, was being chased through the hotel with this out of control fire hose that was like in the shape of a big giant snake. And then it ended up swallowing him whole. I think it's so interesting after having that nightmare, walking into the bathroom, he had the bones for the movie, or sorry, for the book, The Shining.
Yeah,
I think
especially since there's no fire hose in The Shining at all that I remember.
I think he had a lot of it. He had a working plot. You know, he was talking about the amusement park and all of these different things. He had a working plot, but staying at this hotel is like what solidified all these little details for him.
Yeah,
Which I
definitely
think-
provided some sort of inspiration. I mean, the inspiration for Danny running through the halls of the hotel in The Shining. Yeah. So creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he stays at this hotel. He feels like it. He clearly has said, Kayla, you've said this, that he does not believe he has any sort of psychic powers, right?
He's never laid any sort of claim to having any sort of psychic abilities when clearly he must.
He must, and he talks about it in The Shining. Several different telekinesis, teleportation, Isn't there
And
several things he talks about?
every single book and movie that he's ever written has some sort of psychic related ability that's involved. Like it's a very prevalent theme in all of his writings and all of the movies that I've seen, you guys, you know. It's just there's no way he doesn't believe in it, and there's no way that he hasn't had some sort of experiences himself.
Yeah,
There he is.
Teddy Ruxpin. I wanted a Teddy Ruxpin when I was a kid.
What is this teddy bear from?
Isn't that Teddy Ruxpin?
She's too young.
Oh, yes. This is true.
Teddy Ruxpin was like the Cabbage Patch doll of the day.
It's kind of like a Furby.
That's funny that you say that because I was going to say
He read books.
in that picture it looks like a Cabbage Patch doll to me.
It was like around the same. It was a little bit before Cabbage Patch
Like
dolls,
mid
I think,
80s,
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Early to mid 80s, yeah.
Like this looks
It was
like,
like,
a Cabbage Patch
it was
doll.
like a talking teddy bear.
It was like the toy to have. It was
Oh,
like
and
a
it talked?
Furby. It was creepy.
That's creepy. That's really creepy.
All I see is the dumb bear now.
So of course he puts himself in this window and is like, "Come hang out with me." Ugh. Everybody in the comments is like, "Yeah, it was the cocaine. The cocaine is why Stephen King had all of these visions."
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a very.
He admittedly
He is like,
was on a lot of cocaine when he wrote The Shining, admittedly, and that was part of the theme of The Shining was alcoholism and the cocaine that
that was
required.
the plot, the alcoholic father, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is a whole different level of creative. I mean, but I'm just fascinated by this stay. So the stay at the Stanley Hotel one night, he's got the bones for the Shining. He ends up writing it. It becomes a major part of pop culture. Goes on to sell 350 million copies and really revives the Stanley Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
It really becomes this like iconic place to visit and because of him, really, because it was kind of taking a trip south, and it could have just ended up in kind of this dilapidated mess. A couple cool things about the Stanley Hotel is the hedge maze. Can we go back to the hedge maze picture?
Yeah.
So from the movie, this was added to the Stanley Hotel since the movie. It was
Well, the
added
movie
in honor of
makes it so cool. So I
Yeah.
think there's no way you couldn't
have that.
add
Yeah.
it.
There's
Yeah.
a wedding happening in that picture, actually. if you
Oh, I didn't even notice that. You're exactly right.
Look
Yes.
at how much ground is there too for something built into the side of a mountain. That is beautiful land, just all right. And I bet the hotel owns all of it, huh?
And
And
it's
is
not as,
that must be the town there in the right in the foreground.
Estes Valley, yes.
so it's not as
Wow.
isolated as it was in The Shining, like out in the middle of nowhere. It was close
No.
by to like a.
Apparently not. I was expecting it to be more isolated because of The Shining.
Yeah.
I think when you look at it the other way, it appears a little more isolated. There's some built up
Yeah.
buildings kind of in the back now. They look like maybe condos or something. But at the turn of the century, that was it.
I read they built a Safeway into the bedrock not too long
Really?
ago. Also, yeah.
Like-
So I wonder what
the store?
I feel like I read that maybe activity was, or I heard that activity increased when the Safeway was being built.
Activity at the Stanley Hotel?
Yeah, because they were blowing into the rock again.
Interesting.
Maybe that is just something somebody
How
said
far
that I was
how
like,
far is
cool.
the Safeway from here?
I don't think it's very far. Like it's in the same hillside.
Like you mean
Maybe not
Safeway,
the
like
same side.
the grocery
Like-
store?
Correct. Yeah.
So
I want to
that'll
say it's
ruin
like
a scary story.
on the other side of the just around the corner from this down further. I think. I don't know. Why a Safeway? At least get a Fred Meyer.
What's a Safeway? Oh, it's a
Yeah.
grocery store. Yeah. I'm sure some of you probably don't know what Safeway is. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point. So, okay, let's talk about The Shining. So, Stanley Kubrick was the one that made the movie adaptation from the book.
Correct.
And
That
Stephen
Stephen
King-
King hated it.
Stephen King hated because one of the reasons he hated it was not filmed here at the Stanley Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
He really
wait.
hated it.
Why not? Why wouldn't you? When
Oh, sorry.
it's such the perfect place, right?
Yeah, so this is
Oh.
the hotel from the movie, the Overlook Hotel, right? That's based on the Stanley Hotel. But it really made him mad. Oh, it made him so mad. And he didn't like the creative liberties that he took with it. So Stephen King created the miniseries. I think that came out 97? 2007.
97, I think I saw.
97, and
Mhm.
that was filmed at the Stanley Hotel.
I haven't seen that one. I think we should watch that. Why am I getting feedback?
Have you guys seen the Shining miniseries? Who?
I saw
Came out
somebody
in 1997.
minutes earlier said they did.
97. Okay. Oh, somebody earlier said they saw it.
Yeah.
We're all afraid to talk because you can hear
I
the
know, I
feedback.
can't hear myself.
Who's echoing?
I don't know. So, do one of you have your mic close to your speaker?
Oh, the miniseries was awful.
The miniseries was bad.
Really?
Okay,
I
it's
just watched
better
a little preview of it. And it actually looked kind of scary.
I thought Mr. Movies said that he liked it.
I actually haven't seen it.
Oh,
I
shit.
thought you said you liked. Okay, yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I thought that. So I think what's interesting about this whole Stephen King thing is so The Shining is based on the hotel being kind of awakened by his son's psychic power, right? Psychic power. But really, is that a reflection of his psychic power? Is he projecting that, right?
Yeah,
That's
I
what
mean
I
that
think
would
is
make
so
sense to
interesting.
me. Yeah,
Mhm.
it awakened the
Psychic powers
Shining.
in him, right?
it awakened the shining in him,
Shining.
and so
Mhm.
he was like, "Oh, this would be great. I'll just make it about this boy
My
who
son,
gets the
yeah.
shine." Yeah, and the shining is a theme that he carries through lots of his books. Um, lots of his characters have this shiny ability that he references, which can manifest in so many different ways. It's usually clairvoyance, I would say. Sometimes it's just the psychic ability. Sometimes it's telekinesis, pyrokinesis, all that random stuff. But it's so interesting.
So his stay in the Stanley Hotel in room 217, do you think that he was psychically getting information that night? Like when you think about how he had the bones for The Shining after the one night in the, I mean, he had started some stuff, but I think he was like at a creative block, and the stay in the hotel really kind of opened up things for him. But did the chambermaid have anything to do with it, right?
I don't
She was the
I
nut
don't
from
know.
that room.
Is this one of those moments where like the universe puts that story into the air and he grabs it on that night because he's having these psychic premonitions or
The big magic.
Amplified by the cocaine.
yeah, the intuitive
Right.
experiences, right? Or is this just him and his wild imagination having an experience and then just being like, whoa, what if I wrote a story about this? Right? Like I sort of feel like his experience just lit a creative fire that he hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
But he kind of had, because Carrie, I mean, that's telekinesis. That's all about her,
Didn't
lighting
you
shit
say
with her
though that
mind.
he said that he will debunk that he has any psychic ability?
He does not admit, he has not ever admitted to having that ability. But I also don't think he's ever said, "Oh no, I don't believe in it." And that could just because he doesn't want to, be ostracized by
Yeah.
half the population. That's like, you're crazy. Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's really an interesting
Yeah,
guy.
Carrie definitely has the shine. So he had these thoughts and feelings before. The hotel must have creeped him out enough that he was like, "Wow, I could really write a creepy story about this."
Did he make
And
Carrie
then,
before The Shining?
yeah, he wrote Carrie first. It could be that he was also just, I mean, he had such guilt about his own substance use issues, and then he sees his son in his dream getting attacked by this hose, and is like, I don't know, childhood trauma, I mean, all the things all the things leading up
So
to
Raining Madness says, I never got the impression he was crazy at the start, just had some demons locked away, was how I interpreted it.
Mom, he
think
said
that-
we can watch 2 movies. And we did it.
okay, go watch another one then.
Okay.
I mean,
It's 8:30, but whatever. You're gonna fall asleep. Sorry. Constant with the interruptions. I mean, is it are his inner demons the alcoholism and drug addiction that he was dealing with, the guilt associated with not providing for his kids the way that he would hoped because he was dealing with these substance use issues, or is it the shine that's just really coming out? Because you can have Raining Madness, you can have the shine without being crazy. You don't have to be crazy to have the shine.
So we talk about the shine. He talks about the shine in The Shining and in Carrie. would there be any accounts of paranormal activity at the Stanley Hotel without his stay there that really popularized this work, this huge piece of modern pop culture, right?
Well, I can't imagine that he was the first to have a paranormal experience at this hotel.
No, I don't think he was, but did he popularize it, right? Did he make it so now everybody that goes there has some sort of experience with it? Oh, I heard somebody on the 4th floor. I heard somebody on the second. I mean,
I think we need to go.
Have our own experiences.
I'm just kind of skeptical until I have an experience. So
Sure.
This is all very interesting to me. But
I mean, it's a good point. I'm sure people are more susceptible to that placebo effect, if you will, right? Like, sure, if other people have had experiences, then I'm probably more likely to hear something unique. Or wait, well, is it that? Are you more likely to just pretend like you are hearing something, or are you more likely to be in tune with your own intuition that is hearing and seeing and feeling these things?
I think you and I have had this conversation before. I've stayed at a haunted place before, and it's hard to shut out what you know versus because you're kind of expecting that something's going to happen, right? And so having that discernment to kind of shut that out and say, all right, am I having my own experience or not?
Like the pervert in the room on the 4th floor that grabs the girl's hair and legs and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, I don't know as much about that one.
What did I read about?
He's a hair puller.
There's always got to be a pervert.
That would just weird. That would just weird me out. Okay?
Yeah, but the cowboy wasn't a pervert, was he? He just liked to watch people sleep.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's been reports about there's reports of a young kid pulling hair, people that have hair in ponytails at the Stanley Hotel. And they report the people that have reported it seem to think it might be a young child.
It must be a playful pull then, huh?
Yeah, let's go to this slide 15. So one back from this.
How about this one? Is this about all you know from The Shining, Karen?
Just this one image.
That one. Let's talk about this one.
So some tourists took this picture, and then in a following picture, the girl was gone.
It feels like a cardboard cutout or something.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like it doesn't seem very three-dimensional to me. It like looks very flat. And then the face, like what is the face? Is that a face? I can't make.
Yeah.
It's like not attached to a neck though. Like.
Yeah, the hair looks too modern. Like it doesn't look how like if that's like a white nightgown or something, the clothing from the turn of the century, that women didn't really wear their hair like that. Right?
Yeah, no, not down. Not in that.
Unless you're going to bed
age.
or something.
That's true. Unless you're going to bed. Yeah, that looks really suspicious. I'm not sure.
Or the woman was like, oh crap, someone taking pictures and I'm in a nightgown and ducked out before the next shot. Thanks, Raining Madness. It could be. It could be.
Yeah. Yeah, like looks like she's kind of like holding the curtains back, like, ooh, what's going on out there?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't, like, there's no facial.
It's just weird to me. Gina Davis from Beetlejuice. Kind of looks like that, Tony, actually. Yeah. Very skinny arms like Gina Davis has.
Kate Moss.
No, that does not look like KMoe. Nice try.
This of all of the pictures feels like the one that is maybe the one I believe the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to see things where they're not. So
You do?
I kind of do. Yeah, I like to. I mean, I'm always inclined to believe it's a ghost, you know, rather than like a shadow. Like, no, it's probably a ghost.
Do you think if you hadn't had your own experiences like that, you would be like as much of a believer?
Yeah, good point.
Oh, probably not. Probably not.
Because like for me, I've never had that.
Like a visual,
like a paranormal experience. So I'm a little skeptical of it.
Are you more skeptical not having an experience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why I think we should go. Let's go have a sleepover with these folks.
And again, I don't know if because I've had experiences before, that's maybe the reason why I would not want to go stay there. Like,
Right.
Why do I want to put myself in that position? I know.
Somebody said we should go film a night there. I think that could be interesting. Karen's like, no.
That would be really interesting.
Wouldn't do it.
You know,
I'd be too
from
scared.
everything that I read about the Stanley Hotel, they don't really sound malevolent. Malevolent? What's the word? Benevolent. They don't sound
Malevolent.
Yeah. They just sound like they're busy keeping business going from past.
Yeah,
life.
they're still working, right? They're just still keeping the doors open and things churning.
Yeah, which I think is interesting. The whole interesting piece about the bedrock, which I thought was an interesting conversation. But I when they did the land survey on it, it kind of got debunked. But what some of the tours will tell you about the land is that in the tunnels under there, it's primarily granite and quartz, which is like really exciting because, you know, granite captures the sound and quartz releases it, sound and energy, and quartz releases it. And that's really exciting because all of these hauntings and ghostly features are residual energy. And that's what they've been telling people. But I read that they did a ground survey of the bedrock around there, and it's none of those things. So
yeah, it's like the pretty rocks that my kids just pick up in the front yard. Like, it's just gravel, but they think it looks pretty, so still just gravel.
Somebody says spend the night at the Stanley and invite the Ghost Adventures crew. I'm pretty sure they've already been there.
Yeah,
there's been a couple of ghost teams that have been there.
Berly, you look like you're about to say something.
I don't like the Ghost Adventures crew as much as the Ghost Hunters for some reason. Ghost Adventures just feels like a little bit more.
Which one is the Ghost Adventures with the guy with the short dark hair?
Yeah, Zach.
Zach,
he's always got way too much hair gel in.
Don't like.
I'm not as big of a fan of that one. I like Ghost Hunters better just because it feels like they're trying to come at it from we got to debunk this. Like, what could be causing this that isn't just paranormal? They come at it from more of a rational perspective. And I think I appreciate that because I would be completely irrational about it. Right. I would be like, whoa, did you just see that? And they're like, well, it could have just been a shadow from that light, you know?
Swab gas.
Until they put you in you know, one of the rooms by yourself, and then, you know, see if you can generate any sort of that would trip me out.
Yeah, don't think I'd like that.
Yeah. No. That's nuts. We'll get to our own little investigation. That might be
I don't have any of the equipment. I don't have a monitor.
What, an EVP?
Yeah. Oh, I like those sound boxes that give ghosts words to say. Do you believe in that? Do you believe that?
For green and no for yellow or whatever. Is that the ones you're talking about?
No, the ones that make them like a robot sound, like leave or like
Oh.
The chair,
yeah.
the chair, it's like a weird robotic sound box.
They have picked up EVPs in the Stanley Hotel. The most common one that I read was "Get out, get out."
Not red rum? Red rum?
Not red rum.
No. Although I did read that they sell like red rum candies in their gift shop or something like that.
like
a lot
like
of shining stuff in their gift shop. Yeah.
That's pretty brilliant. That's pretty brilliant, actually.
I'm saying they've capitalized on it. It's made a revival because of The Shining.
A spirit box. Yeah, that's what they're called, Reading Madness. Thank you. Called a spirit box.
Oh,
yeah, they can talk through this box. I don't know how it works, but it produces actual words. They emit some sort of energy and it produces these words that come out. I don't know how it works.
No, not to debunk that, but sometimes I feel like they stretch some of those ghost expeditions a little far. Some of the EVPs they pick up are really interesting, but sometimes it's stretching the edges a little bit.
You can't believe anything.
Yeah, until you experienced it yourself.
I love that you're a skeptic, Berly. I love that you are skeptical about this.
I really want to believe in it. I mean, I don't know if that's right, actually, if I want to believe in ghosts, but it's interesting to me. Like, yeah.
Well, that's a good point, though, because I mean, a ghost by any other name is just an energy, right? And I mean, it's energy left behind by some sort of, right, Karen? Right? You'll put this into better words, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just residual energy that they formed into some sort of apparition.
Somebody asked what residual energy is.
Just leftover energy.
Leftover.
It can be in the form of a ghost or just energy that you feel in a room when you walk through. That's
okay.
Yeah. You don't always see a ghostly apparition. That's actually pretty uncommon.
Yeah, you would almost never see a ghostly apparition, right? Yeah. But you would feel
some people do.
a lot of presences.
Maybe. There's an excellent VR game can be played on desktop about ghost investigating called Phasmophobia that has you using all sorts of ghost hunting tools. Oh,
interesting.
That'd be a fun gaming session for the three ladies to do.
Gaming session.
Ooh, I might have to check that out.
I've played it. It's pretty fun.
Oh, Berly's the Scully of the group. Yeah. So if you've seen X-Files.
Oh.
Scully and Mulder. Yeah. Scully is the skeptical, rational mind. Mulder's the believer.
He has bad energy.
Who does? Oh, you think Justin thinks that a lot of EVPs are just white noise that our mind tries to interpret and puts words together with. Similar to when people see Jesus in a piece of bologna. Okay, but that's also a good point. Yes, your mind, it could just be your mind putting words into something, some sort of interpretation. But is your mind interpreting it that way because you're getting some sort of intuitive sense that, your great grandma's in the room with you? And so now all of a sudden you feel like you hear her voice? Or is it truly just, neurons firing in your brain weird? Those are the conversations I have with myself at night. 49ers.
At night. When you're going to sleep, light
yeah,
conversation.
Before bed. Residual energy is like a record player over and over in a certain space. It's not intelligent. I'm not sure I understand that.
How about this one?
Yeah, good one, Christian. Do you believe that events can leave energy behind in places besides the ghosts left behind by like a traumatic energy?
That's basically what Fort Hunter fans were just saying. Residual energy. It's like
I do.
places with lots
So-
of copper in the hills will trap things like a battery, and it can be like a loop.
It gets stuck there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever visited a battlefield, I visited several before, and they do carry kind of there's definitely residual energy besides just the people that have died there. They tend to be very traumatic places, so the earth is holding that traumatic energy.
So like the burial grounds.
Like the what?
The burial grounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Didn't
they're-
you read that there were burial grounds under the Stanley Hotel?
I feel like I just imagine that given the fact that there were Indian tribes present there for such long periods of time,
Yeah.
that there would have been
people
burial
buried
grounds
there?
at some point. Now, energy in the wave of what, like frequencies or like how would you describe the energy? Because it's not like a cell phone transmission wave. It's just how do you describe the energy?
The energy of what?
Anything of left behind trauma, left behind events, left behind
An imprint.
experiences, an imprint.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So in the
And then
movie,
those subtle frequencies are imprints that are left behind. And sometimes they use enough energy to manifest as apparitions. It's not as common. I do believe, electromagnetic devices can pick up things that our eyes cannot see.
Yeah. Ooh, Roberts has a fun comment. What if you didn't know you were on a battlefield? Would you still have the emotions?
Yeah,
I
it's a
think
great
so,
point.
right?
Don't
Don't
I've
you
thought
think you
about
could
that.
still feel?
Yeah, I've thought about that. It's kind of like staying in a haunted hotel, right? How do you use your discernment to separate from what you already know has happened here? The battlefields that I've been to, somebody mentioned Gettysburg. I have not been to Gettysburg. I would like to go there. But the battlefields that I've visited, the energy is very palpable. It's almost like this thick, heavy fog that you have to walk through, and it's almost hard to breathe.
Christian says, I can sometimes feel a weight in a room where something bad has happened. I don't know if that's actual energy or my brain making me think that it is. Yeah, that's the same thing, right? I guess it's just what you
Christian
believe.
has The Shining.
He's a little shiny. He's a little shiny.
Ooh, how is this one?
Yeah, Kaylee, you've been to
Yeah.
Auschwitz, haven't you?
Dachau.
Dachau, yeah. You
yeah.
have an interesting story about that.
I mean, the heaviness of the location is just, it's palpable when you walk in the gates. And again, is it because you know what happened there and that is impacting you as you walk through the gates, or is it because there's so much residual energy that's left behind from what happened there that it's making, you can feel it when you're in that space, that the heaviness.
I think that's a collective imprint on our consciousness, though, too, right? I mean,
be,
that's
yeah.
a huge, huge piece of history.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't
Yeah.
know it, I think you still could feel it.
I mean, everybody is silent when you walk in there, right? Like nobody is speaking. There's almost no sound as you're walking through the gates of that concentration camp. It's just weird.
So somebody said, as a soldier back in 96, 97, we assisted a UN forensic team going over a mass grave where a whole village of people were executed and dumped. It was so unsettling, and you could feel it literally.
Yeah. Oh, I imagine.
I need to do some traveling.
Thank you for your service, Chalk. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Here's one. I've been in several haunted houses and had strong feelings to leave. At the time, I didn't know they were haunted. Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
what is that? Like, what is that people are feeling, right? How do you name that? What is that pull?
The energy, I guess, right?
Earlier somebody asked what your personal experiences were, Kayla.
Oh, you know, just some things. Just some things. I've actually
fourth floor stuff.
Yeah, some fourth floor stuff. Yeah, exactly. No, I actually we've had this conversation before in some of the reactions that we've done because we've watched a lot of scary movies. And I never really talk about what my experiences are because I don't love to relive them always. But this seems like the appropriate place to share some of those sorts of things. In our house, we hear things quite frequently. People walking up the steps. As a child living in this house, I always just thought it was my imagination because almost every kid does this, right? Like you're in the basement alone, and instead of walking up the stairs, you run. You just run because you feel like there's something behind you always, right? So you're just gonna run anyways. And so I always just attributed it to like, okay, that's what kids do, and that's fine. And then since we've moved in here and are living here full time now, and I've heard footsteps on the stairs, and then like at one point we were upstairs, I heard footsteps. I was like, can I help you? Like I said, can I help you? Because I thought it was one of the kids or something. There was nobody there. And I was like, okay, so I guess I'm just talking to myself. And then it kind of brought it full circle, like, oh, no, maybe I was running up the stairs for a reason. Like maybe there's energy around that made me feel unsettled at the time when I was a kid.
What does that feel like in your body? Like, to give the people that are watching, like those that want to understand what it feels like. What does that feel like? Is it in your head? Is it in your heart? Is it in your throat? Are you nervous?
But typically for me, it's in my gut. My gut's like, something's weird here, or that doesn't feel quite right. And then, when you're going up the stairs, it just feels like there's somebody behind you. Can almost feel it on the back of your legs. It's fine. My kids don't feel like they need to run up the stairs, so apparently it's just me.
Do you feel like they're chasing you?
When I was a kid, yeah. Well, I didn't feel like they were actively chasing me, but I felt like if I didn't run, they would try to stop me.
So
something would
do
try
you
to
feel
stop
like
me.
you live in a haunted house or a haunted location? Like if we talk about the Stanley Hotel, which has a lot of correlations to being haunted, right? What does haunted mean? Is it paranormal? Is it haunted? Do you feel like you live in a paranormal / haunted house?
I don't think haunted is the appropriate term in my situation because I don't feel scared in any sort of way usually, apart from the running up the stairs thing, right? I think I live in a place that carries a lot of ancestral energy. People who just want to make sure that things are still okay on the farm after all of their years have passed. They're just checking in to make sure things are still cool on the farm.
So I saw something out here. Arthur Gray says, I'm from Cheyenne tribe in Montana, and some grave sites have an energy that makes me feel like I'm being watched.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh, that is spooky. I don't like that feeling. I do not like the feeling of being, and you can sense it. Like that's a real thing.
Now, are they tribal grave sites? And is he being watched by his ancestors? Or like maybe it's a positive thing. Rockstar, thanks for the $4.99. Green Lake, Wisconsin cemetery is haunted. Many stillborn children buried there and despairing to walk through. Also, a blank that knocks people.
Gravestone.
Oh, a stone that knocks people who sit on it. Well, you shouldn't sit on a gravestone.
Yeah, that's disrespectful.
That's rude.
You know, speaking of cemeteries, that I think is kind of interesting. The place in Louisiana, why can I not think of it? It's built right on the shore. It's like the oldest part of Louisiana. No,
New Orleans?
New Orleans. Thank you.
Nailed it.
Thank you.
Nailed it.
It's like my mind went blank. So when Hurricane Katrina hit, this is really fascinating. So they're like right at the water line, and they built a lot of it's a very, very old city, and they buried a lot of their dead right at the water line. So when Hurricane Katrina hit,
All the bodies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything flooded. They had lots of things just floating around down there in New Orleans.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's really kind of creepy.
Yeah. That's unfortunate, isn't it?
So
They had to try and identify all these
yes.
bodies to rebury them in the appropriate locations. I think they had a bunch that never, who have been dead for so long that their relatives were all dead too. So it was just, it's kind of sad. I imagine that's going to leave some weird imprints down there for a while. A bunch of unmarked graves now. People trying to stake their claim.
Wow.
This is interesting. One of the reasons that Stephen King didn't like the Stanley Kubrick adaptation of The Shining is that it didn't have the spirituality that the novel had. When I do research on this, because I've not ever seen The Shining, don't hate me. I think his creativity was so much. I think there's so much with his psychic abilities that he does not let on to. And I think there's so much that somebody else took the creative liberties there that he was not happy with. I think that is kind of, but are movies really ever better than the book? Rarely. Very
rarely. But
right?
And I think we had chatted about this just a little bit a couple days ago, but his sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep, when it had its movie adaptation, it did a really good job of bringing the Stanley Kubrick version of the movie The Shining back into the book version that Stephen King had intended. So I think it did a good job of kind of meshing the two together. And I think Stephen King even said that
it made him appreciate the original Shining.
Yeah. He was finally able to appreciate the movie.
To make the movie?
What's that?
Did they not get permission to make the movie?
Oh yeah, they buy the rights to the story, and then they can take liberties depending on
And he
If Stephen King just said, okay, you can have all of the rights to the story, they'd get to do whatever they want with it.
Oh, yeah, here's 49ers fan. New Orleans is 8 feet below sea level. Yeah, I knew it was some crazy. That's a problem when the sea level rises.
Aaron Two Spirit said, I remember having dreams or senses of my grandparents passing before they did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
wow.
I had that experience as well.
Like premonitions? kind
Yeah,
of
with
thing?
our granddad. I
Really?
remember that. You remember me telling you that, Karen?
Mm-mm.
I, for some reason, couldn't envision him at Thanksgiving that year when I was
Aw.
looking
Really?
forward to the family events for the season that were coming up, and I was trying to plan for who was going to be coming to Thanksgiving on the farm that year. And I, for the life of me, could not see him there. And that for a while I struggled. I was like, okay, did I cause this to happen? Right? Like,
Aw,
did
yeah.
me not seeing him there lead to him not being there? Or could I not see him there because he just wasn't going to be there? He just wasn't meant to be there that year.
Didn't your mom have a premonition about him before he passed?
My mom tends to see lots of people right before they die.
Yeah.
Yeah, in her dreams, I
I
think.
didn't know that about.
It's
I
crazy.
didn't know that. Wow. Wow, that's fascinating.
I
And
can't
then
wait for our dream episode.
someone said that Plectromira, sorry I butchered your name there, Plectromira said, my mom swears she saw my grandmother standing over my crib 2 days after she passed.
That sounds like
think
Mr.
that's-
Movies experience
Yeah.
that he had.
You want to share that for the people?
Cowboy?
Want to save it? What? Oh, there he is.
Mr.
That I've
Moody.
seen my great grandmother and my grandfather after they've passed at the foot of my bed. Yeah, that's my experience. So
That's
Yeah.
it. That's his experience.
that's my experience. It wasn't a dream because
You were awake.
it felt completely different. Yeah. So, and it was after like major life events. One was after the birth of our firstborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather saying, stopping in to say he was proud.
Hmm.
And then one was after senior year of track at state. And my great grandmother, who she died 10 years probably before that. So she's just popping in to say hi. And it's always weird that it's only that my mom's side of the family that's done it. And it's them just popping in to say they were proud of me when they felt like I needed to hear that. So
Why do you think it was only your mom's side?
I don't know.
Turns out maybe his mom's side got a little bit of the
Yeah.
shine, huh?
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't need to call it woo woo anymore. It's the shine.
Right.
Shine.
It's the shine.
Oh, here, Dorian said, do you guys think deaf or blind people have supernatural experiences? Absolutely. Why wouldn't they? If anything, they might have more, don't you think? Because their other senses are more heightened.
That's what Justin says.
Yeah, Justin.
Do I think that they are like they have more of an exaggerated experience? Is that the question?
The question is just, do they have supernatural experiences?
Well, Karen knows more about this, the different senses,
Mm-hmm.
like clairvoyancy and all that stuff, because you can have a sense for sensing the paranormal. That's not just sight. It can be a smell. It can be hearing.
Well, it kind of brings to mind, like, would a blind person be able to have clairvoyance if they can't see? Could
Yeah,
they?
because clairvoyance
right?
is not your vision.
It's not actual vision; it's internal vision,
Your-
right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they would be probably off the charts with some of their
There might be
clarity.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're not distracted by their visual,
Yeah.
their field of vision, right? That's a fascinating question.
Polly mathematically says, years ago, I had an audio premonition of my uncle screaming my name. I wasn't even asleep. 6 months later, my uncle screamed my name in the exact same way when my aunt nearly died of a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, so what is that?
That's
I'm curious
interesting.
about that. What do you think that is?
Some sort of premonition.
Like, what is
No,
a premonition? Does everybody know what a premonition is?
Can I share what my premonition I think experience
Yeah,
that I just had?
Yeah.
So I was driving in the car the other day. I kind of told you guys this story, and I heard the lyrics of the music was off, and I heard the lyrics of a song, and then I instantly went to turn on the radio because I heard the lyrics, I said them out loud, and I was like, oh, I want to listen to the radio. And then I turned on the radio, and the exact same lyrics that I said were on the radio.
maybe you just caught a radio wave in your brain.
Oh.
Is that a thing?
I mean, it's possible.
That could be a
Caught
thing.
radio wave.
Like, you know, the radio waves are going through
I mean, the radio catches the radio waves that play through the speakers.
through
so
the
why
air.
couldn't
Yeah,
it
the
be caught
radio
through your head?
catches it in the antenna and plays it through your speakers. Maybe your
Whoa,
brain
that's
just
crazy.
caught the radio wave before the car did.
Does anybody know what that means?
I mean, obviously the song was already playing on the radio waves, so
With that
I think
other
that you
premonition.
were-
Oh, go
people
ahead.
with plates in their heads have that happen all the time.
Eric, Mr. Movies.
No, I believe that you were tuning into a specific frequency. Didn't you say it had something to do with your father? Wasn't this something that wasn't the song or something about your dad? Or it reminded you of your dad or something?
It was country music, and that always does, but yeah, I don't know. This was a different. It was wild. I was speechless.
Christian says you have the shine. Confirmed.
Girl, you got the shine.
Okay, Karen, I think this might be the better one for you. A good question for you. So, Aaron Two Spirit says, I have a question. If there is no time and space in the afterlife, and it's a quantum space, like a nexus point, then everyone alive is there already. And could our deceased selves communicate with us? That's some deep shit, Aaron. That's some deep shit.
Can you put it? Where is it at, Aaron?
That's a wild
here it is.
question, but yes, if we talk about quantum physics, right? There is no past, there is no future, we all exist in all of these time frames all at once. So yes, we could be existing on multiple timelines, multiple frequencies, all at the same time. And yes, our deceased selves could be communicating with us. I mean, this is really like a mind expansive idea, right? That's the whole idea. If there's no time and space, how do we exist in one space but be able to move freely to another space, but also be able to exist on a different timeline in the past, in the future? You know, if we talk about the Stanley Hotel, this could be happening like parallel lives, parallel universes, parallel happening all at the same time. Like right now, we're coexisting with what's happening right now at the Stanley Hotel.
Is this a segue into our next episode?
Maybe.
It could be. Although quantum physics seems like a little bit out of my wheelhouse.
We need a guest for that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. This is beyond the living fire hose that takes flight. Great question, though.
Chalk says those who experience premonitions. Oh, I lost it. Those who experience premonitions often feel it as more intense, more detailed, and vivid kind of deja vu. That it's like deja vu, but more intense. Yeah, that could be. I mean, that kind of sounds like what the previous commenter had mentioned. Like he heard his uncle screaming his name in a premonition and then it happened, right? Like that would feel like deja vu, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I've experienced a lot of deja vu.
Have you?
Yeah.
Does it come and go in waves for you?
It probably happens like once a year. Maybe twice a year.
Can you give an
Just like
example?
I start doing something and then I'm just like, I remember doing this before, but it's like something I couldn't possibly have ever done before. I can't think of a specific.
I have deja
I don't
vu
know.
very rarely in my waking life, but when I dream something, then I will be walking through my waking life and go, oh, I have deja vu from what I've dreamt about a certain, like, I'll give you an example. I dreamt about this specific building and I was on the outside of it. I drove up next to it in my car. I'm dreaming this.
Mhm.
And it's very ornate, very architecturally ornate. I had no idea what this was. Like about 6 months later, I'm actually driving in my car. We're in a different city. And I drive up to this building that I dreamt about. I was like, whoa, total deja vu, but like from my dream space to the actual space, living space. I don't have it very much like in my waking, just like, oh, I'm having deja vu. I know people that have it like every day. I certainly don't.
Yeah, I don't
It's
feel like
past lives is what Tony says. Deja vu.
Oh.
Parallel lives too.
Oh, Chuck said he and one of his friends had a mutual deja vu.
Oh,
They were in the barracks and approached the door from opposite sides and both froze for a long moment staring at each other. Both had deja vu about it at the same time. That's cool. You wonder if it's because of shared experience. I mean, shared experiences because you're both. Oh, that brings like, is there something in the environment that
Yeah,
would
like
cause the deja vu to occur?
Deja vu always feels like an imprint of something previous. Like it always feels like there's something playing out. Like I've been here, it smells the same, I feel the same, the clothes feel the same. Like almost like it's a ghostly imprint of what I've experienced before. It's just a weird sensation. But I'm rarely in the same place with the same people and yeah. Have you ever experienced it, Kim?
deja vu.
Yeah.
I was gonna say sometimes like when I meet people, but maybe that's like
Like, oh, you're familiar kind of feeling.
yeah, like you're familiar. Maybe that's more past life, like they were talking about.
Ooh, past lives.
Another segue. Okay.
Yeah, that's another great. That's another great one.
So I'm still thinking about the screaming of his name premonition. Is that a premonition or is that clairaudience? I mean, is it a clairaudient premonition? Because he just heard his name. I mean, like he heard his name being screamed. I don't know.
I'm curious if if her or whoever said this, hearing it helped save the aunt's life. Like, was this person warned with the scream and then it eventually helped save the aunt's life, or was it just an alert? Right?
Yeah.
That's really fascinating.
How about this?
Could you highlight that Justin one?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how about this one?
Yeah, thank you. You guys think that dreams could be spiritual? Like when we sleep, our spirit goes to another realm or place or whatever, and that's what we remember when we wake. Karen, you probably have good insight on this. Yeah.
We actually have an episode coming in the future about dreams. So
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about it, but let's save this one, and I hope you'll tune in again because we're going to talk all about dreams.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I think. Do I think they are spiritual? Okay, do I think dreams are dreams sometimes, and they're just processing what's happening in your when we go to sleep, we access our subconscious mind, and a lot of it is, oh, I mowed the lawn today, or I did dishes, or I did laundry, and all these like basic tasks. I have a friend that just only dreams about all of the mundane things she does every day. Nothing more than that. And then there's people that can travel to lots of different places, called astral traveling when you dream. That's a possibility. You actually can exit your body and go to these, when we talk about a quantum universe, right? We talk about quantum leaping, quantum expansion. You can do that when we dream. And so, yes, I definitely believe there are messages that come through dreams. There's spiritual pieces that happen in dreams. But yes, dreams can just be completely mundane and boring and have no meaning as well.
Just
But I will tell you
random
one thing-
neurons firing.
Yes, I will tell you one thing about dreams, that they're not to be taken literally, right? You dream about somebody, you dream about somebody dying in a dream, it doesn't necessarily mean that that person's going to die, right? Yes, we have premonitions about what's happening, but dreams, dreaming of you having a heart attack or something doesn't necessarily mean that that's what is happening. Our subconscious brain processes a lot when we dream or when we sleep. So that'll be a fun discussion. I am excited about that one. Maybe we should.
Polly mathematically says, my uncle screaming my name should not have been possible. He was over 40 minutes away on a commute. It came from outside my window on a side path where no one could possibly access without making noise. I think you're being too logical about it, Polly mathematical. Right? Like it probably wasn't an actual person screaming your name. It was probably just something you heard. I hear things all the time when I'm like falling asleep, or I will be awoken from sleep by a door slamming or crying. Like my kid, like I hear my kids crying when they're not. I think sometimes our mind just puts those sounds in there.
Is that clairaudient too? Is that the clairaudient?
Maybe.
Is that when you're dreaming?
It's not when I'm dreaming. It's when I'm not dreaming usually, but it's when I'm asleep.
Wow.
It's usually as I'm falling asleep, or like right after I've fallen asleep, that period right after you fall asleep. And it pulls me out of sleep.
Space. Yeah, it's pulls you right out of it. That's an interesting perspective. I hadn't. So you think we have the ability to impart what we want to see and feel and hear in that short little window before we go into our delta brainwave. That's interesting. That's always where I shake myself awake. When you're like,
you fall.
Yeah, you fall. Right, exactly.
So should our next episode be about dreams? No.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about dreams.
I'm fine with that. I've got very little to impart on the dream topic, but I'd be excited to do some research on it. It's paranoia. It could be. It could be paranoia.
Oh, I see one that I want to address. My dog often sits facing a corner and just stares up.
Ooh.
And sometimes whines. I believe he is sensing a spirit. Thoughts on animals seeing spirits? Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. This is very common. I think they can sense them and see them often easier than our human mind because they don't have a lot of, the logical brain doesn't interfere with what's happening
Right.
with our animals and our pets. Animals are actually one of the first things that I've seen paranormally, which I think is really fascinating.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. One of my dogs for about 6 months would come and lay by the
After
fire.
he passed?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yes, I have a dog that will do that. He'll just kind of wander off with it. I'm like, what are you looking at? I've heard cats do that a lot too.
That's funny that they said that because I actually saw a video on Instagram today of a cat that was like pawing the air after its dog friend passed away.
Really? Huh. Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, polymathematically, thank you for commenting. No, your logical brain is absolutely allowed to think these things. That's where this podcast is going to kind of be fun, I think, because we all have that logical brain. And I think it might be fun for us to turn it off sometimes and talk about the illogical stuff that doesn't necessarily make sense, but is interesting to consider. Right? It's those curious parts of the conversation where you wouldn't necessarily see yourself going.
We call that,
but find interest in it.
Yeah, right brain, left brain, right? Yeah, I love it. Cats hate humans. Jason Lane, your dog could just be a jerk too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh, you guys, I cannot wait for the dream episode. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah, Tony, you're right. Those are the worst dreams when you feel like your legs are just stuck in cement and you cannot, like, if you're trying to run, that happens to me all the time. Constantly trying to run and never going anywhere.
Yeah.
Or I'm going somewhere, but so slowly that I'm just annoyed, right? Why is this happening? Those are the worst dreams. I can't wait to learn about why I have those. We're going to talk about that on next week's episode. Shouldn't we?
Yeah. Should we do a poll?
Can we do a poll in here?
Yeah.
Yep.
What are our other options?
Dreams is one.
Talking about the clairs.
Oh, yeah, the different clair senses.
Chalkham says, have any of you achieved a lucid dream where you know you're dreaming? Yes. Dreaming within a dream. Yes. I have done that many times. It is trippy. It is just wild.
Jason says, Cowboy, she dreams about running away.
Oh, yes. I always have the dream that I'm back in school. You guys, we're going to talk about all the common dreams. That is a really common dream for me too. Like I get to the last semester of college and I can't, something is impeding me from going to the class and I can't get there. And it's like 3 weeks left and I'm going to fail. And
you haven't been to any of the classes. It's finals. Yes. You have not made it to any class. And you're like,
I got to take a final and I don't know anything. Yes. Yes. All those things. Oh.
Any other topics for the poll?
Yeah. What other topics can you think? Oh, Eric threw on UFOs.
Oh, yeah. Let's see here.
What else did we talk about tonight that anyone would be interested in maybe chatting about next time?
What did you say?
Astral traveling.
Oh, astral traveling. That might come up in the dream conversation, although it would warrant its own
have
conversation.
Its own episode and have a special guest for that one.
We might want to have my mom on as a special guest for that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
At some
That would
point.
be fun.
I'm looking here. Hold on a second.
The Amityville house.
Whew. Yeah. Do we want to discuss another
Haunted
paranormal
place.
hotspot? Yeah, we could definitely do that.
All right, we're going
Oh, another idea was like vortexes, ley lines, sacred sites, glyphs, symbols, ancient
Oh yeah.
communication.
What about like the stairway and
The
you were talking about-
portal.
It's a
Ooh,
portal?
Oh, portals. Yeah. Do we want to talk
Can you
about
end the
portal?
poll and start it again? No. Oh,
There's only 4 options.
Dreams is heavy-handedly
Dreams is
winning
69,
currently.
70%.
Where's the poll at? I want to see it.
It's on YouTube
Yeah.
currently, so
Oh.
you can't view it from this side.
This side of things.
Talk about empath abilities. Yeah, we're going to talk about. That's a great one. Yep, we're going to talk about that at some point. These are all
Ghost
really
events,
good.
ghost fires, or smoke with no fire. Wait.
Oh,
Brain
the
says
Oregon
soulmates would be a good topic for an episode.
What is Kim? Could you highlight thickies? At the doctor recently, a worker pulled me aside and said, God sends her messages. She's been seeing the color yellow in her dreams. And when I came in, I had my yellow hydro. She felt like the message was for me. So she was you were carrying a yellow water bottle and she thought the message was for you.
Interesting.
Did it relate? Did the message
What was
relate?
the message? If you care to share. Did it, was it for you? I'd be interested to hear.
So I do see something else out here that might be of interest to this group that somebody mentioned, the Oregon Vortex. I haven't been to that site, but I've been to the Montana one. It's a fascinating place, talking about portals, vortexes. I've been to several places with weird earth, kind of the alternative earth energy. So that's an option as well.
Ooh,
I think we'll
Travi
get-
Typo. He's going to the Stanley in
Ooh.
July.
Ooh, are you excited or nervous now?
Was that an intentional question mark or an unintentional one? I'm excited.
I am Ron Burgundy.
Maybe we need to do like a YouTube live from one of these places.
That's what I'm saying.
For
Let's
real,
have a
yeah.
sleep over there and do it.
That could be fun.
Oh, Writing Madness says, I'm also intrigued by how twins can feel what is happening to the other twin.
It's because they
When-
share. Do you think they share a soul or a spirit, or part of their? Like, are they I imagine since the bodies are separated in utero, that the souls are kind of separated and connected in some sort of way, also.
Ooh, that's a good discussion. We're gonna have to.
And does it matter the type of twin for that to happen?
Oh, and Bermuda Triangle is just off.
Like if they're fraternal or yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's different.
Or identical.
Wait. We can't miss our auntie. Bring on Kayla's mom. I love it. Maybe we have to do that. That would be fun. Oh, the Bermuda Triangle. Yes. I think
Oh,
that'll
that's
be places we'll talk about when we talk about sacred sites or ancient sacred sites. Ley lines, vortexes, portals.
But next week it's going to be dreams.
Okay.
What's the final poll?
At least an overarching umbrella of dreams, because dreams could be so many different things. And at some point we'll break down lots of different layers of dreams.
Here's Sticky's response.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a nice message.
That's sweet. And she gave it to you. That's sweet.
I think it's important, when everybody has their own interpretation of things, right? And they saw your yellow water bottle, so they thought maybe the message was for you. And maybe were they pushing a little bit of their agenda with you? Perhaps, but maybe not. So you always have to use your discernment. Is that?
Cool.
I think
Angel was first.
Thank you so much for coming, Ryan, and thank you for the $2 donation. We really appreciate you hanging out with us today.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm really excited to hear the gratitude guidance.
Yeah,
Okay.
Karen, do you
we wrap it
do
up?
you want to? Yep.
Okay, so one of the things we're going to do on this podcast is each week I'm going to channel a message for the listeners of this podcast. So anybody that's listening currently or those that are going to listen into the future, tapping into the collective energy of it all. So right now we'll put it at the end of the podcast. It may end up being at the beginning, but it'll be a nice way to wrap up kind of what we're doing here. But I just wanted to say thank you for those of you that have joined us tonight. It's been fun to have a conversation with all of you and Mrs. Movies and Berly. It's been fun. Oh, and Mr. Movies. You were there for a second too. Okay, so here's the channeled guidance for this week. Be willing to play and be open. Challenge yourself to see and read between the lines. Be open to what is put in front of you. Give yourself grace to exist within this moment. Honor the hard energy you may be moving through, but don't be defined by it. Free yourself from the spiral that you may be caught within, and imagine yourself on the outside of the spiral just watching everything play out. You have a choice. You don't have to exist within the spiral. As you move through your life fastidiously, be willing and ready to let go of the things and the people and the places and the time and energy that no longer serve to move you forward. As things funnel down and streamline, allow that to create a ripple effect in your life, family, and community. And be willing to extend yourself in ways that serve yourself and the world.
I love that.
All right, you guys.
Shedding the old.
Yeah. Well, thank you again to everybody. I look forward to the conversation on dreams next week. Is there something we should read, Kayla?
Tony, he's a funny guy. I like him. Outside of the Shining talk, this was fun.
Well, join us next week. Same time, same place. I'm sure it'll be a lively conversation.
Dreams won the poll with 51% of the votes.
Woo! All right. Dreams it is.
Oh.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. This was fun. We'll be here again next week.
Yay. Mic drop.
Bye.
Bye.